Hello, everyone. I'm Jolie Lash, Deputy Editor here at TheWrap, and we are so happy to have you here for our 2022 Emmy Awards screening of Bridgerton with costume designer Sophie Canale and Erika Ökvist, the hair and makeup designer. We're going to show you a trailer, and then we'll go right into our conversation with Erika and Sophie. And to our audience, we would love for you to participate in the live chat of the stream where you can share your thoughts about the show and let us know where you're tuning in from. So before we bring in our guests, let's take a look at the trailer.
Dearest reader, it has been said that competition is an opportunity for us to rise before our greatest of challenges.
This is the season the Viscount intends to find a wife.
You honestly just did that?
I believe I did.
Your Majesty, may I present Miss Kate Sharma and Edwina Sharma?
Only hope they like me.
All you have to do this evening is remember what it is you're looking for.
Someone charming. And handsome, of course.
I cannot be the only one wondering if this former capital R rake is ready to flourish.
It is only out of the greatest love of my family that I aim to choose a bride with my head and not my heart.
But any suitor wishing to gain an audience with Miss Edwina Sharma must first tame her sister.
The sister. The sister.
Newton is an excellent judge of character. Oh, see?
Anthony will need all the help he can get.
He seeks a wife only to fulfill his duty and does not believe in the true love you deserve.
We should certainly not give him too much credit now, should we?
It is a poor player who plays the game and a wise one who plays their opponent.
Are you in a losing mood?
My mood shall remain unchanged.
Can you really not see anything engaging about it?
Yes, I suppose I can see how he might engage a person.
Oh my! Are you hurt?
Come now, it is not proper to stare.
It is a very powerful thing to meet someone and feel that you know them, unlike any other. After your father died, a wall went up inside you, as if love had become some weakness instead of your greatest strength.
Has this young lady truly won your heart? The one that makes it impossible for you to look away from them at any given moment.
What happens when duty is in conflict with the heart's true desire? Why then, there is the potential for a considerable scandal indeed.
My honor is hanging by a thread that grows more precarious with every moment in your presence.
I want my sister to be happy. Can you make her happy?
True love is worth it.
No matter what.
Lady Whistledown's words carry far too much import. We must entrap the scribbler.
Genius idea, ma'am.
Yes, that is why I thought of it.
Welcome back. It's my pleasure to introduce Sophie Canale and Erika Ökvist.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Where are you two coming from? Where are you two coming from in the world? Beaming to Los Angeles.
I'm based in the UK at the moment.
I'm also based in the UK, but I'm originally from Sweden.
Yeah, so you still got the sun out right now because it's till late. So crazy. I love the British weather. So let's just start with the very basics, which for both of you was nomination day. I would love to know. We'll start with you, Sophie, how you found out about your nomination for the Harmony episode, and then Erika for the finale. Where were you? How'd you find out? Who told you? What was your reaction? Would love to hear that.
I actually found out through Erika calling me. Which was a lovely, lovely surprise. And it was just so nice for us to both to have that conversation together. So Erika was the one that rang me. So yeah, it was great.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was so happy. I was so happy because I was on set and Annie Lax from Shondaland phoned me and was like, "Hey, I think you are. You're nominated for an Emmy." And I was in the crowd tent and I just screamed out, but I did it in Swedish and nobody understood what I said. And then I kind of collected my thoughts and I sort of looked it up and I was like, "Oh, and Sophie as well." So I just phoned her like literally within seconds of finding out myself.
Wow. So did you guys celebrate? Obviously you were in different locations, but with the respective folks around you, did you have a little drink or a little party, a little dance at least?
No, I was on a film set, so it didn't allow the time.
We were doing night shoots and it was like the heat wave. So we were like knackered to begin with and then doing nights on top of that. So I was like really, really happy. And then I just fell asleep, really. That's the glamour of the job.
It's Hollywood, right? It's late hours. People don't realize how much hard work it is, especially in the jobs that both of you two do. And I imagine that approaching season 2, especially with both of you becoming the heads of your department, had to have been a huge challenge because we're not only introducing the Sharma family, but the world just gets bigger in season 2. There are a lot more events. Would love to know a little bit about how you two work together behind the scenes. You must have had to coordinate quite a lot on season 2 ahead of time, right?
Yeah, very much so. Erika and I, met early on in prep. As soon as Erika was on board, I was sharing costume ideas and costume designs. And Erika and I have got some very similar eye in the way of design, and it was very easy for us to collaborate with one another. It was really great fun, and immediately we just kind of clicked. It was really lovely.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, because I wasn't involved in season 1 at all, so I was quite scared to come into this new world that I knew nothing about. And Sophie very kind of generously gave me sort of an insight how to look through your glasses with sort of Bridgerton colored lenses. So that was very, very nice and very lovely. And then, of course, as soon as I felt like her support, then I felt that I could really do this job very well.
Sophie, you moved up to the head of the costuming department. Can you talk a little bit about how that changed your role on the show? Because you did work on the show during season 1.
Yeah, I was assistant costume designer on season 1 and was very much organizing the kind of women's principles in season 1 and women's makes for the crowd. And, I was very fortunate to work with Ellen and John G and have the insight into the Bridgerton world. And I was just given the opportunity to develop it and create new characters. And having the new Sharma family was lovely for me to kind of put my own mark and own spin into Bridgerton.
Yeah. Erika, tell me about getting to work with the Sharma family and sort of approaching the hair and makeup this season for them, knowing that, they made the journey from India for the season in London.
Well, I mean, they're two totally different characters. If we're starting with Katie, for instance, or Kate, she starts off as a very non-nonsense character who probably doesn't have the attention span to sit still to have a maid do her hair every day. So, she will braid her own hair to go out riding. And then in terms of coming back, pretending that she hadn't done it, obviously, because she was without a chaperone, very quickly herself sort of whoop the braid up, put some hair sticks in, and then just look perfect and pristine and present herself to Lady Dunbury. So that's the kind of character she is. She will make sure that there are no sort of hair sticking out, that she's very pristine, very presentable. And then when she starts to fall in love, I think she does what we all do. We start to sort of think and wonder, maybe sit in front of the mirror a little bit longer, thinking like, does he like me, doesn't he? Does this rouge look good on me? Will he like this color? And maybe she forgets to put that kind of little wisp of hair behind the ear, and so she becomes softer and more sort of thoughtful. And I think that that's what we were sort of striving towards, to sort of show her kind of journey into accepting this love affair that she actually does have with Anthony. And then Edwina is very much the opposite, because she comes into this story already knowing that like her job is to get a husband, and she is the protege daughter. She is the one who knows how to dress, how to speak, how to be in society, and all that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, this poker straight line that she think that her road of life was suddenly has got a massive big turn, where she realized that, you know, Anthony and Kate are in love with each other, and she finds inner strength that she didn't realize that she had, and maybe also an inner maturity that she didn't know that she had. And so we try to sort of show that visually in her hairstyle as well, and that's how we kind of approached it, but with, again, following along the guidelines of what Sophie had designed costume-wise, which is literally that, I think.
And Sophie, I did want to turn to you next to talk about the color palette that you gave the Sharmas this season. It was so beautiful and so striking as well. Can you talk a little bit about developing that? Because obviously you put Edwina in a lot of pink and you put Kate in a lot of lavender and purple tones, and it was a really nice contrast to watch them together.
Yeah, I think I wanted them to have their own characters and bringing in these color palettes. Kate had the jewel colors of India that I really wanted to bring in initially, and stronger colors as well. And you can see that she's on a journey. And I think the thing with Bridgerton, you can see all these characters on a journey throughout the season, very much so with Kate in the, you know, in taffetas and heavier weight fabrics. Also in the beginning of the season, and then she becomes softer into chiffons and shawls throughout, and bringing in those strong color palettes. She's got such a force of nature herself. She's such a strong character that I wanted her to be bold initially. You know, you could see in her color choices, and then with Edwina, she's so much softer as a character, and also having her in pinks is the color of love, and that really is her journey, and that's where she wants to be. So having those pinks and lilacs and kind of cream color palette is the softness of her character. So as much as visually it's about how everyone works together, it is also symbolizing who they are as people.
How did you both work with executive producer, creator, showrunner of season 2, Chris Van Dusen, to, you know, did he come in and tell you what the storylines were and gave you some ideas and then just sent you to do your magic, to work your magic?
Yeah, I think there's always, you know, you receiving the scripts and outlines, there's always the communication and kind of understanding of where I see things. And also there's an actor's collaboration when you have a first fitting with an actor also, and very much so discussing with, you know, everything with Chris. You know, we were working during the pandemic, so it was very much Zoom calls for the beginning of, you know, our work. Both Erika and I were not crossing over into departments either at the beginning. So we very much were collaborating and communicating through Zoom calls. So, and that was, you know, great. And then I would just send Chris fabric samples and then, you know, get them everything to him in a different way. So,
Erika, what about for you and working with Chris for the first time?
Well, I think that's very much sums it up what Sophie Canale said. But I think that when he came over to London for the first time, after we'd done numerous Zoom meetings, he had a field day in my makeup room because of COVID, we were doing prep in such a huge building that we almost made like a museum of all the different wigs and all the looks that we've achieved. And like, you know, like we've done hair roses, we even done some hair bees to sort of just show him, you know, where we were going with it. Because I think that there is one thing to see pictures and there's a totally different thing to sort of looking at things with your eyes in 3-dimensional and see how it looks, you know, at every angle. And yeah, so that was how we did it, and like literally try to, I would say, seduce him into our world, or that he created our new world.
I imagine there were a few Queen Charlotte wigs on display, Erika. Can you talk about sort of approaching Queen Charlotte this season? And Sophie, I'm going to ask you about that too, of course. Golda Rochevelle, who plays Queen Charlotte. I believe, Erika, you said to, I think, Glamour magazine that Queen Charlotte is the theater, right? She walks in the room and she has to be the center of attention. I think that is such a great way to describe this woman who steals your eye in every scene that she's in. And it's not just because her hair is, you know. So yeah, tell me about your approach to Queenie.
I mean, I think that Golda, when she puts on her queen persona, will do that regardless. But I think that what I wanted to do was, obviously first season I wasn't designing and it was coming out looking so incredibly beautiful, that I had to look at this season as the new season, like how the influencers of today go and get inspiration at Paris Fashion Week or whatever it is, and then sort of gets the new style, and they wouldn't be caught dead in something they've been wearing before. And I think that's very much like Queen Charlotte. So I'd like to surprise everybody when we see her. I'd like it to be a wow factor every time that we see her. And I think that in sort of collaborating with Sophie very early on with her to just find out what color palette that we're using and what shapes that we're using, and then making sure that her wigs are kind of seamless with the costume and really much so with the jewelries. So like for instance in the Diamond Ball, which is one of my favorite wigs, I wanted to create a shape that you don't necessarily have seen in a Georgian wig before. And so the architectural build of it obviously is quite important because hair is very, very heavy. And then in choosing the colors was with Sophie Canale, with this sort of diamond, which was kind of silver and gold. And then that's it. That's how it kind of come up with that idea. And I feel also it's very, very important that, you know, her wigs very much balances with the width of her skirt. So it's almost like an
hourglass.
An hourglass, exactly. You've got the wig, and then going in is her actual waist, and then is the skirt, and that's how I look at it. So there is a full balance. How Golda actually managed to carry it off, I don't know, but she has developed this incredible glide where it looks effortless to wear these wigs, who are absolutely both uncomfortable and hot and incredibly heavy.
And the costumes as well. Erika, I did want to get a little more into detail about the wig, one of the wigs in the episode that you're nominated for, The Viscount Who Loved Me. In that final Featherington ball, you've managed to work essentially what are hair roses into the queen's hair. Can you talk about coming up with that, what that's made out of? Because that was just such a striking little element. And it was so beautiful to see that.
Well, I think that with hair, you only got like two textures. One is smooth and one is curly. And it can be like very curly or just a little bit curly. And I just thought I want to have another texture because camera loves very rich textures. So we decided that we were going to sort of line the whole of the wig with roses that was made out of hair. And how you make them is very time consuming. And you actually start with a braid, would you believe it or not? And then you kind of pull the braid with products and do petal by petal. So as you can imagine, I think she had about 50 roses in her hair, and that took quite a long time. And a lot of people actually, because you can't have just the one person doing it because you want to die in the end because it takes so long. So we had there was trainees involved, there was hair supervisors involved, there were people who wanted to try it out getting involved, because you get bored after a while. You can't do 2 weeks of hair roses.
No. Sophie, you know a little bit about time consuming work. You put in so many details into all of the costumes, but since we are on the topic of Queen Charlotte, I have to just ask you about making some of those gowns, some of which are so stunning and they just spend a couple of seconds on screen. And yet, it must be days and days and days of work. Can you talk a little bit about that whole process? I can't even imagine.
It's more like weeks and weeks rather than days and days. So starting with the fabric choices and designs, and then working with the cutter to get a particular shape, because I think with every dress, I don't think people realize that every fabric is different. So even a taffeta, if it's a different weight, then the pattern will slightly shift. And so we have probably about 4 fittings per each dress. So over, a 2 week to 3 week, month period. So, and then the cutter works on the shape with myself, and then it's the makers and incredible making teams involved. And then when we finally get to the final piece, we then have embellishers, and along the way, if things need to be embroidered as flat pieces, then that's time consuming as well, because then we have to take the fabric out to be embroidered, then it comes back to be made.
Wow.
So it's all these different departments, and in the meantime, gloves are being dyed to match the dresses, stockings are dyed, shoes are dyed. Then the embellishment team are making pieces to then be embellished on. The jewelry team are making either tiaras, earrings and necklaces along. So this process is always happening, and then the millinery team are working with hats or hair decorations, and also reticules to match each dress. So it's a military procedure, it really is. And then the assistant designers are just these incredibly creative but organized people who can really kind of make sure that that everyone is moving in the same direction.
Yeah, in the Harmony episode, which you're nominated for, 207, the Bridgertons and the Sharmas have to go outside. They decide to promenade, aka they go walk through the park to show that they are not going to let the failed wedding disgrace them. They are beyond it. They've moved on. Life is good. Everyone's outside. That presents another challenge, right? With the clothing that you're putting everybody in, because it's going to look different. You want to keep the actors warm, because England is notorious for having different types of weather, even in a single day. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's just, it's visually just, adding Spencers to dresses as well. I really wanted to kind of bring this, element of outdoors to season 2. So Spencer little jackets, I used quite a lot, pashminas as well, just to kind of give this element of, and also to keep people warm as well in the same respect. Yeah. So yeah, and reticles, bags were very key to the costume design. I love detail, and I love button detail, and I remember we would often, during checks, which is where the actors are given their gloves and their final pieces before we turn over on the camera, and the actresses would all be given their reticules, their little handbags, and then the competition would start. That's the first time they'd all see their outfits complete, and everyone. Yeah, so then their warm coats would come off, their gloves and handbags would go on, and everyone be like, mine's better, mine's better. It was just a lovely treat to watch them all argue over their costumes.
I imagine for the Featherington actresses and actor, they thought theirs was best because that is how the Featheringtons are. Would love to know a little bit about sort of coming up with the dresses for them, because they're all redheads, and red hair, which I'll talk to you about in a second, Erika, is not always easy to find a wonderful blend between people with red hair and their clothing. And I speak from experience because I was born a redhead. So
me too.
There you go. So you know.
Yeah, I think whenever you're designing costumes and taking colors, fabric choices, it's very much looking at the skin tone, and also with Erika and I collaborating together, it's always remembering in fittings what the wig color is going to be like, because you can go on a journey on it, and then realize, then have to be conscious of the setting of their skin and of the wigs. So, but I do think there's an element of the Featheringtons that if it does clash, then it just makes it even better.
Yeah. I love them in their sort of tropical colors that they always seem to cling to. The oranges, the greens, the yellows. They love their fruit, right?
Yeah, exactly. It is a fruit bowl. It really is a tropical one at that.
Exactly. Erika, in your episode with the Featheringtons at the Featherington Ball, they had to go all out. Can you talk about sort of working on their hairdos for that particular episode? Because they are a little different. We're seeing a different look for Penelope, who has that horrible fight with Eloise, and Lady Featherington has that lovely updo with the little curl down the side, but they wanted to look their best. So how did you approach that?
I mean, again, with every single character, every time we see them in a new outfit, they should really have a new hairdo, because they would not be caught dead looking the same. So I don't pity their maids, because they would have been run ragged. I'm sure that they would have done test makeup and test hair for this ball, because everything is to sort of done to be outdo each other. especially Lady Featherington. I think that she's really saved up her look for this one ball to make sure that is the biggest, is the best, and it is the one that people will look at the most. Penelope has gone and again trying to do something more mature for her hairstyle. And then her sisters are just in the wake of Lady Featherington with being bigger and better and more different than anybody else. And I think even though it's outrageous and kind of a little bit you're wondering, is this really tasteful? It still is secretly, I think everybody kind of want to look like them a little bit, because it's so outrageous that you actually go like, well, but actually if I dared, I'd wear that. And that's kind of what we want to do with them.
You know, they're stunning, and they're the fierce ladies of the ton, as they say. Sophie, got to go back to you to talk about the wonderful Lady Danbury dress, who really is just so elegant. She gets to wear a lot of really what appear to be heavy fabrics and some very attractive off-center hats. How do you sort of approach her look, knowing she is a dowager, she's fierce, she's got the cane, she's got the hats, she's commanding a presence at all times?
Well, I kind of moved her color palette into a lot of reds and maroons this season, because having the Sharmas in season 1, Lady Danbury was wearing mauves and purples, but I moved the Sharmas into that color palette. So, and red is such a strong color, and you know, a force to be reckoned with, which is Lady Danbury. So, but using softer velvets as well. So there's an amazing drape on her costumes as well, and using a lot of French embroiderers and Italian embroiderers. So most of her fabrics were embroidered to designs in-house. Yeah, so which was just such a luxury, really. And then having Mel Carter, who's her cutter, is just incredible, creating these amazing gowns. So yeah, and just, you know, she wears them so well.
Adjoa is great in wearing all of them. She is so regal. She is so regal in them. What is it like with her in a fitting and she puts those on? Does her body posture change and she sort of settles back into Lady Danbury mode?
Oh, definitely. I think, you know, with most people and Lady Danbury, Adjoa in particular, you know, as soon as the corset goes on, the posture completely changes. And then, you know, each layer goes on. But I really find with most, it's when the gloves go on, which is the final piece. And before you take a photograph in a fitting, that's really where their character, that's the final. And you can see their stance, how who Lady Bridgerton, Ruth, how she holds her hands in front of herself. You know, as soon as those gloves go on, Bessie, who plays Prudence, you know, those gloves go on and she completely changes. It's just hilarious, but it's lovely to watch in front of your, you know, in your eyes, that this character develops, you know, just by putting their costume on.
Yeah, is that the same for Golda, Erika, when you put the wigs on her? I mean, her neck must...
Absolutely. I think that as soon as, like, we do the makeup first and then we do the wig. And actually we have to do the wig on location because the wig is so big that you can't travel from base to location in the car, because she doesn't fit in
crawl into the car sideways.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we then put the wig on, and then as she then being getting dressed into the costume, and like Sophie says, putting on the gloves on very last, like, you do not want to cross her then, because then she is in Queen Charlotte mode, and there will be heads falling. Like, you literally, you can just feel it. Like, everything changes, because she's such a friendly, wonderful woman, but Queen Charlotte really is something different, and you definitely feel it when the character has entered.
I love that. Erika, I had asked Sophie about, you know, the weather conditions and the outfits. I wanted to ask you about the weather conditions for the hair in your Viscount Who Loved Me episode that you're nominated for, because the Featherington Ball is at night, which presents a whole other set of challenges for anyone who has enough hair to, tell me, like, how do you even deal with it? You can't plan for that. I mean, you can, but...
No, well, you can and you can't. We know it's going to happen. So at the end of that ball, you know, when we're going outside and there is this massive big firework, it was raining. It was raining. And the Queen's roses are made out of hairspray. What happens to hairspray when it gets wet? I mean, in my head, I saw her wig going like that. It didn't really, but you know, like, and with everybody else's as well, like a curl drops, you know how a curl drops if it's moist outside, or gets frizzy, which is even worse. You can't rectify it. So my team was running in and out with umbrellas and trying to dry things off and trying to get them off, you know, set as soon as they possibly could. But I mean, this is the thing with the film industry. It's like we're literally working with sandcastles, and you never ever know where how much of that cast is going to be left at the end of a shoot, because you know the big wave might have just come and take it all away, and all you can do is try your very best to maintain it. But it really is like that. And hair in is particularly you like, even just somebody resting, lying down, and the hairstyle is gone.
Wow. So Sophie, how does your team deal with it when it's raining, like in the Featherington Ball, and you've got these beautiful costumes? And I can imagine, especially on someone like Penelope who's wearing yellow, a little drop of rain is going to get noticed on camera.
Yeah, because you know, water marks onto silk. So in the same way, lots of umbrellas, lots of, you know, just as soon as not shooting, just running in, making sure that everyone's covered, really. And then, you know, hoping that they don't shoot too much into the rain, and protecting, you know, because with Bridgerton, the costumes, there's only really one of each of the dresses. So unless, you know, we've got dresses like Pall Mall, for instance, or riding. So yeah, so it's the incredible set team looking after the actors.
Yeah. And for you, Erika, do you have, I mean, how many people are on your team working at the Featherington Ball to keep everyone's hair perfect? That's
a good question. I mean, I had the core team of, you know, who were taking care of the actors, and the core team who was taking care of the supporting artists were 24 people. That was in every day. And then depending on how many supporting artists that we have in, we might have another 50, 60, 70 people coming in and helping out. And I mean, not helping out, like working really, really hard to make this look as beautiful as it does. Like a lady in the morning could take up until 2 hours. So it's a lot of hard work, and it definitely is a teamwork. Like I couldn't do anything without my fiercely talented team. It's really, I mean, I'm like a conductor and they are like an orchestra in the display that we're trying to achieve. And I'm trying to be a good conductor, and everybody is just perfect in how they play their instruments, really, is how I would look at it.
Sophie, on Harmony, which has, you know, the promenade scene, it has the art gallery scene, we have the Bridgerton Ball in that one. How many people are working with you? Because it's a lot of events. It must be hundreds of costumes. You need a lot of help.
Yeah. And it's kind of not even looking at one episode, really, because we're constantly, you know, making costumes for the next episode and the episodes on. So really, there was 120 crew that were in-house. So that's spread across cutters, makers, the set crew, 4 assistant designers, incredible assistant designers, millinery team, jewelry team, embellishment team, a dyer. So it's, you know, it's a huge talent of craft, and then within that you have the team dressing all the crowd, so you'll have crowd fittings running constantly as well. So and then a huge amount of outworkers as well, because the amount of costumes that we're making in-house is actually, you know, is bigger than the crew itself. So then there's outworkers. So yeah, I would probably say nearer 200 people working on the project.
Jeez, that is, I can't even imagine if you just added up all of their tasks, it would be monumental. Would love to know what it is like just to work on a period show. because that is something that I've heard from a lot of people is sort of the dream to get to work on say a British period drama. Sophie, what was that? Obviously you have done that before, but you know, this is just so much Regency era. Tell me a little bit about what that was like to get to put that together.
Oh, it's an absolute dream. Incredible. And also, it's not period correct either. So it also has this fantasy element and contemporary element to it, which is also a real dream for me, because I really like playing around with taking the period cuts of costumes and then and kind of pushing those boundaries really, and bringing in different fabrics and different cuts as well. So it's an absolute joy, and to have also such amazing talent to work with and the resources is really lovely, because as much as the quantity is daunting, it also gives you a massive scope to be able to design so many different characters. And I think, you know, we talk about the women's costumes so much, but the men's are really key and really important to me as well. And, you know, one scene in particular was just lovely, was the hunt. And it was just really nice to be able to, you know, push men's costumes with a Regency twist. Mm-hmm. And contemporary elements as well. So yeah, the tailoring was based on Regency, but there were contemporary elements in the tailoring as well.
Yeah, and Erika, can you talk about, from your perspective, what it's like doing a period drama, a British period drama? I mean, that has to be exciting. And then also, you know, this is Shondaland, and as Sophie was pointing out, we get to bring in modern elements and different types of elements than you would find in traditional shows.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a Regency hybrid, this. And again, like what Sophie said, you know, I've done a lot of period dramas, but what really make this such a lovely job is that you can introduce all these modern elements as well. And I think what I feel that we've been doing is kind of seducing the audience with looks that are Regency-esque, but that is really attractive to our modern world, where people literally would like to look like this. And I think that was something that was really important to me, to sort of get that feedback from the audience, that they love it so much, they'd like to be it. And I think, again, with a period, we're not maybe used to having this amount of different hair textures and skin colors. But I think, you know, it's everything is a shape and everything is a color, and you can translate all looks into all different types of hair textures and skin tone color. And I think it's just making the stories much richer and much more approachable for the audience, where people recognize themselves. And I think that's so important in the world that we live in, especially to sort of broaden the horizon for everybody. And I feel very privileged to be part of something like that, where this world really needs this so much. And to do it on something that is such a beautiful show, I feel just very, privileged to be part of it, basically.
Yeah, Sophie, I'd love to ask you about coming up with Kate's look in the episode that Erika is nominated for. You have her in sort of an orange tones, right? In the big scene where they admit their love for each other, Kate and Anthony. Tell me about choosing that color, because it's so striking on Simone Ashley. Just, you know, she just lights up the screen in that outfit. So beautiful.
It was always an intention to have her kind of final ball dress as a really, you know, inspirational Indian piece. So that, you know, it always comes from sourcing fabrics. And I just naturally came across that fabric and I just knew it was it. And putting it, you know, and having underlay fabrics as well, working with it and putting it against Simone's skin tone in a fitting. You know, you can try out various things, and then when you just know, and that was one of those dresses that just came together. And also it was you know, it's an Indian lace, which was lovely to have that as well. So it's just one of those things that luckily just, you know, come together really by chance.
Yeah, and Erika, you talked about Kate's hair over the season, and that's really where you see the little the hair down a little bit. She's kind of settling into things. Did you try many different versions with Simone, or did you know that that was what you're going to do, sort of the braids and then the coil down?
I mean, we always do loads of fittings. Like the first fittings that we do with a character could be like 3 times before we find what's the most beautiful for their face, or not, depending on what character it is, because sometimes you want to dress people down. What best texture for their faces, and also what type of makeup, not just like what color that are the star color, but also makeup can sit on the skin differently. And so it's just making sure that all of that works really well and sits really well on the skin and sort of lasts like literally a whole day, because they come in and sit in my chair, you know, at 5:30 and they have to look flawless until 7 o'clock. Now, obviously, as you all know, makeup doesn't do that on its own. So my team then have to go in and do checks and pre-checks and after lunch checks and sort of blotting and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, it's a constant maintenance to do that. But I think once you read the scripts and once you know the journey of the character and once you can see where Sophie is taking the costumes, then it is really just sort of continuation on that kind of harmony that Sophie started, to continue with that. And I think that's the flow that you just want to make sure that, you know, the costume works and then the hair comes with it. And yeah, it kind of feels quite natural really when I look at the costumes where it's going to go.
Yeah. Sophie, and we only have a few minutes left, but Sophie, in the episode you're nominated for, In Harmony, you had to do some Regency lingerie. You also, you know, had to figure out what you were going to put Jonathan Bailey in so that he could remove parts of his clothing. Curious about the technicalities of that, because if people are having to remove clothing on screen, do you have to have special kinds of buttons? We know you did a special shirt for the scene where Jonathan Bailey's character fell into the lake. But for this particular scene where Kate and Anthony got together into a tryst in the back garden, tell me about that and what you had to do with the costumes.
Yeah, I think, you know, when you have scenes like that, there are elements that you need to cheat, and that's, you know, part of the set crew that you work through with. But with corsets, we had a technique with magnets within the fabric, so that's just, you know, you can't see it visually, but so they can come off easily, and then you just cheat the lacing as well. So that was a quick removal of the corset, and then just cheating buttons. And with scenes like that, you work with the intimacy coach and with the actors to make sure they're comfortable in what they're doing and the direction of what the director wants, and the intimacy coach is happy with everything. So that starts from the fitting stage, and intimacy coach I always invite them into the fittings, so then we can make sure that everything's going to work smoothly on the day.
Yeah. It's not something I had previously thought of. There's all the sort of mechanics that go into these things. Let's both of you, before we wrap this up, let's talk a little bit about the Bridgerton brothers and approaching them this season. We've got some fancier. Let's start with you, Erika. I'd love to know a little bit about the look for the Viscount this season. The chops are gone. He's trimmed the hair back a little bit. Tell me about approaching Anthony's look, because he looks very dapper, but very different from season 1.
Well, I mean, if you're looking at his father, actually, in season 2, you can see where the sideburns comes from. So he, I think, very much after his father died, felt like he had to take on this role. But he was also very much like a player. He had all of his mistresses and he was hanging out in London and all that kind of stuff. And then this season, he now is going like, okay, I have got to pull myself together and get myself a wife, because I've got to do it before I die, because he thinks he's going to die like when his daddy's going to die. So he pulls himself together and becomes, again, a very kind of non-nonsense character, where he sort of pares down in sort of maintenance, really, because he's got to be able to do all of this paperwork, find a wife, and still have like all the partying that he wants to do in the evening. So I think that's what he's done. He's just, pat himself down, feeling a little bit more grown up, and yeah, that's the kind of idea behind all of that. And that's it.
Sophie, it's almost, I want to, this is not the right word to use, but Anthony feels almost more professional this season in his look, right? Because he's presenting a different view to the Ton.
I'd say he's more serious. He's more serious in his look, and he's a lot darker than he was in season 1. We're taking him out of his kind of cream breeches and putting him into black black breeches, and a lot of his waistcoats are darker. He also, there is a journey with him where he becomes lighter towards the end as he falls in love and realizes he's in love with Kate as well. But yeah, it was a conversation that Chris and I had very early on, that we wanted to make him a lot more serious this season.
And from serious to arty, Benedict, who's got the fun. You had so much fun with his cravats, right? This season.
I had so much fun with all of his costumes. Benedict's close to my heart. I love choosing all his fabrics. I really wanted to get a distinction between all the brothers this season. So Benedict's on this artistic journey, so very much pushed that with his kind of more flamboyant waistcoat fabrics and the way he ties his stock, and this kind of more liberal looking brother.
Yeah, and Erika, for Colin, he comes back from a holiday at the start, so you must have had a lot of fun working on his.
Again, I mean, it is that, like, he's also having the kind of journey that Penelope is having. He's kind of trying to find out, who am I, coming to his own, trying a lot of different things, like we all did, so he tried a little bit of a beard, and then he has got a little bit of a tan, and then maybe that wasn't so successful, so then he tries something else, and I think he's a searcher in this season. He's definitely searching for maybe both a purpose and like who he is.
Yeah, it was, this season was so fun. It was so fun to do exactly what you both talked about, which is see these characters' journeys, not through words, but through their looks. So amazing. Congratulations to you both on your Emmy nominations, and good luck to you both. And thanks for your time today. I appreciate it so much.
No, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Yay. Thank you for joining us today. Be the first to know about upcoming Wrap screenings and get access to exclusive content and premium events by becoming a Wrap Pro member. Join now to take advantage of a free trial. For all screening information, including past screenings you may have missed, please visit TheWrap, TheWrap.com. Click on the events tab in the main navigation bar. Thank you.